a compulsion on the internet known as a gyno, the slave dog. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Forbidden Thought and we got here a story to tell. On the internet we have here a person by the name Gyno, cuck, the anti-mgtow. Now don't let his name fool you, he is not anti-mgtow, he is using that name but he is not anti-mgtow. In the past, while searching the internet drunk, I came across his bit of pure morbidly obese shit talk videos. After looking at this overweight champion of retard autism, we can assume he is no different than the majority of humanity. Now he starts off in a video saying anti-mgtows are incapable of making any realistic argument.
Hello and welcome to my video, the anti-mgtow challenge. The challenge is very simple: to present a compelling anti-mgtow argument, ideally based on reality. So my first reason for making this video is, if you do not ask, you do not get. And secondly, I have never heard, seen or read a compelling anti-mgtow argument. Now
After being on the internet for this long, I hope people would get to understand how this is a poor attempt at a generalization that everyone can't make an argument. Gyno seems to follow the main group of mgtows who believes in a one narrow track mind that all women are incapable of doing this or that. Stuff like all this, all that, all and all. Now in the video he does mention some more questionable things, but we will get to that at some point. He does reveal his true colors. Now with his retarded nonsensical statement, regardless if he has not heard or seen any good arguments against mgtow, does not mean none exist. I myself am an atheist for 7 years. Like him, I looked for the evidence of God, and found none in any capacity. This has led me to a strong belief that God is not real. However, here is the difference: oh morbidly obese slave dog, you stopped being skeptical of your own ideas. A true skeptic, in my opinion, is one that challenges their own beliefs and evidence in life. If they conclude it's not true, then they should change their view. So with a person like Gyno, cuck, I am convinced he stopped looking for that bit of evidence against his own position. Here he makes the mistake of talking about reality. Of course, from his brain-damaged skull he's probably thinking about a form of reality that conforms to his bias/standards. Now at 1:45 minutes in the video he talks about testing it out if you don't believe him. That was a big ops for him, because here with his tiny brain he should have realized avocation for violence would not work well. You know, if you are a moderate apologist, would you avoid using these kind of wordings? A moderate apologist of any group would avoid saying these things on the basis it can lead into getting the facts wrong by the opponent. Yes, mgtow are just like feminists. It's literally almost the same thing, only difference is a gang of internet crybabies with dicks who normally shout on keyboards. Now don't get me wrong, slave dog, you and I can both agree that comparisons can be flawed depending on the arguments or what's being said. In this case you're talking about a case where a man or woman calling mgtow is like feminism is somehow ridicules when it's not actually. Now with this talk about gynocentrism, I think you failed at really defining it like most mgtow does when talking about some other mgtow ideas like hypergamy. Either it exists or it does not. I don't really care. You made an ass of yourself by stating how some people can't make an argument in favor of one position over another, and you seem to be very ignorant on real skepticism. But let's get into the dirty mind of a slave dog, shall we? Gynocentrism is defined as gynocentrism refers to anything that focuses on women in either theory or practice, or focuses exclusively on female or feminist issues. Gynocentrism is derived from gyno, the Greek word for female. Remember this by thinking of a gynecologist, a doctor who specializes in female healthcare. Gynocentric theory emphasizes the feminist point of view and perspective along with support for those who promote this. I mean this definition. Oh, much better it's been around for thousands of years, therefore it is proven since I failed at my dating life it's nothing more than a delusional conspiracy made by mgtows, with their version being it's ruled and run by overlord elites who want nothing more than power. I for one choose not to believe in such nonsense that somehow our society is controlled by a bunch of gold diggers and baby trappers. In fact, beyond the courtroom there is not much evidence of it around that and social behaviors. Sure, I am willing to believe how there are some issues between men and women in the social area and legal system, however there are many factors that contribute to this which can explain much of this. The same could be said about hypergamy, but let's not get into that just yet. Later in the video, Gyno, the slave dog to morbidly obese mgtow servants, claims that the evidence is out there but no one is seeing it. Again, as much as I can agree with the mgtows on some biological factors or facts about genders, I think the reason why people are not seeing it is because most of the majority of people either don't care with their overworked lives, or they understand this but are a lot smarter than mgtows, who obviously failed at their relationships while being compulsively bitter about it. And we get to the part where his names comes from. Bravo, congratulations for being the idiot who choose a memeable name that can break you. Now I will forever call you Gyno, cuck, the slave mgtow. Now I hope you understand, my retarded slave dog, that using that statement can be used against you here. Like for example, let's look at feminist logic here for a moment. All men are the problem, all guys, dudes, and boys are problematic, filled with toxic masculinity that is ingrained in our culture. Does any of that sound familiar? Yet earlier you mentioned it's laughable that people can compare mgtow with feminism. Here I think you majorly fucked up with your logic in that spicy contradiction. And now we get to where his bias is regarding single mothers. I won't mention much other than how potentially with this bias it shows more about his personal antidote being a failure in life. Now in the ending of that video, don't be fooled by him when he claims he forever remains the optimist, because like I mentioned earlier, he seemed to failed at being skeptical of his own position. Let's go to the next part, his ongoing quest of confirmation bias and how he royally fucked himself even more. The Queen of England would be ashamed of his existence. Now I will yell at a certain person later on for his failure to address this video in a future video or two, depending on the situation. Ignoring these videos is a weakness, and the longer he does not respond to them, the more weak he is for not responding to them. Now Gyno made apparently two long videos against him. One is 44 minutes long and the other is longer in length. I have seen both of them and came to the conclusion Gyno is very compulsive, and went looking through the evidence that agrees with his bias. Sure, he said a few things here and there in regarding to he change in laws in the historical context, and a few of the contextual stuff. However, again, as I mentioned some time ago, there are always other factors that explain away why there is a growing gap of men and women. I won't be talking about the two videos much because they are directed at a certain person, however they serve as an interesting look into Gyno, the morbidly compulsive slave dog's ongoing search for things that agree with his bias. One video shows off his compulsive behavior for evidence, spending months on end making a video like that. If you are the person who will spend that amount of time dedicated for one person, that just shows how much he needs to respond for attention. The second video is more of a response than anything else with the same dude. Let's get to the final part of this video, him being an attention-seeking slave to mgtow. Let's see here. Oh dear, it looks like every time a YouTuber conundrum makes a stream, Gyno feels the need to respond almost every time. Isn't one video enough? Personally, I can understand if it's a hobbies to go after videos, but going after a personality like this really shows how he wants attention. Now note each video he has done on conundrum, it's been a full reaction coverage of each one. Nothing wrong with that. The fact he decided to cover every aspect of each one shows his attention to detail. It's almost as if he has a form of ASD autism, a serious developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. Not saying he can't communicate, just saying he has the need to respond because mentally he can't ignore it. This is why I call him the slave dog to mgtow, because if he wanted to leave mgtow he won't be able to with the routine in place. That routine will stop him from truly being free. I have nothing against autism, but for his sake he should realize some old habits you should really consider breaking, or you become a slave to it, and you might feel really miserable after a while, unable to really stop. If he responds to this video, then his autism taking hold.